Test Drive with Graeme Fletcher.
This week on Test Drive we look at the 1994 Volkswagen Jetta. Now in the past the Jetta has accounted for almost half of all of Volkswagen sales, but because the old car had reached the end of its useful life, it had begun to lose market share. That makes this particular car a very important car for Volkswagen if they're to regain that lost market share.
At the heart of any good car is a good engine, and the engine found in the Jetta is certainly that. Displacement is measured at 2 litres, with power being rated at 115 horses and 121 pounds-feet of torque. One of the things that differentiates this engine from the majority of the competition is the fact that it only has 8 valves rather than the usual 16. The advantage to this is that you have access to the torque at very low RPM. This means that throttle response is good right from the word go all the way up to the red line. During the skid pad test we required just over 8 seconds to eclipse the 100k mark. The intriguing part is that the car feels substantially faster than the clock indicates. Matched with this nifty engine is a smooth shifting 5-speed manual transmission that is very easy to use. Gone are the bad old days when you had to be a master chef if you were going to stir the shifter into the right gear. The clutch action complements the whole setup nicely. The feel is light and the bite point very easy to find. The suspension on this Jetta is comprised of McPherson struts up front, a torsion beam axle in back and sway bars both back and front. Now the reason this car handles the pylon test so well for a family sedan is the fact that the torsion beam axle actually imparts a certain amount of four-wheel steer. It gives the car a very precise, sure-footed feel. Out on the open road, the suspension continues to do its thing very well. Not only is the feel solid, it is also very comfortable. Combine that with a steering setup that offers the right weight and good on-centre feel, and some of the best seats in the market, and you as the driver are free to enjoy the pleasure of driving.
In some of the advertising Volkswagen are using for this new Jetta, they suggest that when it comes to safety, this car is not middle of the road. Well, I'd take issue with that statement, because while it's true they've got crumple zones front and rear, they've reinforced the side of the car for side impacts, they've missed the boat on 2 key elements on the base model. There's no airbags and there's no anti-lock brakes. They are available as options on the GL, as our tester is. However, the cost of that package is $5,300. Add that to the GL car and you're looking at a vehicle that's over $22,000. Now that for a car in this segment is far too much money, and they're going to lose a lot of sales because of that price.
Up front, the seats offer plenty of support, especially lumbar and lateral, as well as ample adjustment. In the rear you'll find an abundance of room, both head and leg room being better than average.
One of the aspects of Volkswagen design I've always admired is the simplistic approach they take. There's a model set of analog instruments sitting right ahead of you. On either side of the column are the wipers and turn signals. The radio sits high enough in the dash that you can actually see it using peripheral vision, and the heater controls, because they're large and rotary, are very easy to use. A lot of other manufacturers could take a lesson in how to use a simplistic approach. One of the common complaints with compact cars is the size of the trunk. Well, the trunk on this Volkswagen is absolutely enormous. It is larger than any other compact car, and in fact it rivals most mid-size cars for sheer volume. When you add to that the versatility of a fold-down rear seat, there isn't much you're not going to be able to get into this thing.
The stopping power on the GL is provided by a 4-wheel disc brake setup that gives you ventilated rotors up front and solid in the rear. During the brake test, the system functioned flawlessly, requiring just 112 feet to stop from 80k. The thing that struck me during these tests is that the stops are straight and easily modulated, despite the lack of anti-lock. The degree of balance in the system being down to the brake pressure modulator. This thing ensures no more than the right amount of braking goes to the rear brakes. This means that the risk of locking one of the rear brakes mid-corner is kept to a minimum, and therefore so is the risk of a spin. Rather reassuring, all things being considered.
Well, that's it for this week's test drive. I think it's safe to say that this edition of the Jetta is vastly superior to the one it replaces. However, I remain convinced that the lack of airbags and anti-lock brakes on the base model is going to hurt their sales.
If you consider Motoring TV's been on the air for 30+ years, there's no doubt you've missed a few episodes. Well, there's a couple of ways you can catch up and make sure you don't miss anything. First, you can go to YouTube and look up just segments or complete shows. Also, if you want to know what we're doing, like today on a daily basis, just go to our Facebook page. And also, you can go to motoringtvshop.com, get some cool swag. Oh, there's also that Instagram thing.